I was tired of literally falling out of the RV every time I went up and down the stairs because the ones that come with it are super tiny. So I built myself a big deck with some big stairs.
And those are the RV stairs it all started with.
Now I can enter and exit my RV in style. And I know you want one too, so follow me and lass uns anfangen.
Strong like a tree, there's roots where I
I'm sure
stand.
you can relate to how inconvenienced those RV stairs are. I'm just getting too old to be comfortable going up and down those narrow stairs. Even though they do have an anti-slip pad, I still slip on them multiple times now. They are fine for travel, but while the RV is stationary, they have to go. Weather forecast is hot and sunny. Since I look like a cooked lobster within minutes, let's put on some protection first, and then I started by setting up my workshop. For the deck frame, I used pressure-treated 2x6s, and then I used pressure-treated 4x4s to lift up the frame, so I end up with a floating deck. I really like the convenience of the battery-operated miter saw. I used to be tied to an outlet, now I can set up a miter saw anywhere I like. That makes my job much easier and much more convenient. Also, it's much lighter than the Bosch miter saw, so I can simply carry it around. While cutting the pieces to size, I laid them into their positions so I knew the length of the rest of the pieces. It's easier to visualize on how it will look like in the end, since at this point I still wasn't sure about the exact measurements on what I would like the deck to be. You know that measurement, that little sweet point where it's not too big and not too small, just right? Once I had settled on a size, it was time to screw it all together. Before I raised the platform by using the 4x4 and 1/2 inch bolts. To insert those bolts, I have to use a large drill bit. Using this bit just sucks the battery out of my Makita drills every time, so make sure you have enough batteries charged for a project like this. Getting those bolts at Home Depot or Lowe's is kinda pricey, so I usually just order them on Amazon. That's where I ordered the drill bit from as well. Using 2 bolts per connection is a good number. While I did purchase a set of bolts from Amazon, I salvaged a few bolts from a deck demolition a few years ago. I'm reusing those here. I think those bolts were used for a deck build around 1980-ish. That means they are 45 years old. And I have to say, they do feel and look better quality-wise than the ones you buy nowadays. They say they don't make things like they used to. Cars were metal, furniture was solid wood, and appliances could run longer than most relationships. And honestly, the same way goes for people. The older generation might have a few scratches and a little rust, but they were built with real craftsmanship. Stronger, wiser, tougher? Quality ages, it doesn't expire. Here you can see me struggling, trying to raise the deck. Having a second person here is definitely a plus. Using a tractor or similar would be great as well, but mine was tied up with some cinder blocks that I'm relocating. And I always like to show in my videos on how to do things yourself, and not everybody has a tractor. So I used the most obvious way possible to do this. But it worked. I pinched the 4x4s in between 2 pieces of lumber to keep the platform raised and be able to level it before attaching the screws and bolts. And there goes another battery. When you decide on the height of the frame, make sure you calculate in the height of the deck boards. You don't want to end up barricading the door with the boards. Make sure you keep leveling throughout, just in case something slipped or moved unexpectedly. In case you are wondering why I only left 3 of the 4 4x4 posts long, this is because I will only build a railing on one side. If I were to leave the post behind the door long, it would intervene with the opening of the door, and it also would block the water tank and water heater access. And on top of that, a railing on the RV side is really not necessary, since you can just hold onto the RV when going up the stairs. To keep the 2x6s in place, I use joist hangers. When you use them, make sure you put a nail in each of the holes. In addition to that, I also use 3 screws along the outside of the joist. This deck will be so sturdy I can have a party on it. If you like, you could add blocking in between the joists. I just don't think it's necessary to add blocking for such a small deck. However, I do have to add blocking on both ends of the deck, since I want to create a picture frame around the deck boards and I need something to screw them into. Now, since the deck frame is finished, I started on the decking. As mentioned, I want to make a picture frame around the middle deck boards. To hide the ends, I started by tracing the cutouts onto the deck boards. This step slows down the whole process, but I think it's so worth it. However, it was getting late, so I decided to change my plans and attach the deck boards the following day, since I almost forgot to add the tape to seal off the top. Adding tape isn't necessary, but it will make your deck last much longer. So I think it's worth the extra few bucks. It will seal off the holes from the screws and prevent water from getting into the lumber. It's the next day now, and the weather forecast again, it's hot and sunny, so let's put on some protection. And then it's time to cut along those lines that I traced yesterday. Therefore, I'm using my jigsaw. I like to add that you rather want to cut away a little bit more wood than leave too much, since there might be some wood movement in the future. I will add some base trim later to hide those cut lines. And it's the perfect cut. And it's time to get some more lumber from my little lumber yard. Once the picture frame was cut, I attached it with screws to the frame below. I don't necessarily like the visible screw look, but it's the cheapest way to build a deck. There are different systems that you can buy to conceal the screws. There's this one system where you buy a special tool and special screws, and it helps you put the screws into the sides of the board and therefore hide the screw heads. Those are great, but they do cost extra money. And I don't want to spend any more money. So to make the screws as visually pleasing as possible, I marked a line on each board so the screws go in neatly in one line and are not all over the place. Screwing in all the deckboard screws is not fun, so let's speed it up. Wouldn't it be fun in actual real life you could speed things like that up? And let's not worry about this one board that's too short, I replaced it later, I was missing one board. And the deck part is fertig! So, it's a party, it's a party, it's a party! Now we're only missing some stairs. For the stairs, I wanted to keep it simple and just create 3 boxes that I will place on top of each other. All those little scrap wood pieces came in handy for this job. I built a few different sawhorses in the past, but I've noticed the sawhorse is one of those things I just can't get enough of. Currently, I'm storing a bunch of lumber on mine to raise them off the ground, and I don't have any left to help me out here, so my foot will do for now. I placed the stairs onto some temporary cinder blocks, since I knew I had to raise them a bit more. To get the stairs attached to the right level, I started with the top stairs and screwed it onto the deck with the help of a piece of lumber. This will also keep the stairs attached to the deck, but if I ever needed to, I could simply separate them again. Then I used a few pieces of scrap wood to screw and tie all the other steps together, so nothing was moving. I used a 4x4 for the last railing piece that I attached again using 2 bolts. Then I covered the stairs with deck boards. I had a brief thought of doing the same picture frame style like I did on top. I would have totally done it if I built the whole deck out of composite wood, but I didn't, so it's not worth it in my case. Now the last step is to stain the deck because nobody likes that weird green color of the pressure treatment. I let the stain dry overnight. And we are fertig! Well, I know the railing is still missing, but that job is for future me. For now I enjoy my stairs and deck without it. What do you think? Do you like my project? Please like, comment and subscribe to my channel. If you haven't done so, please click the bell button to get notified of new videos. If you can, please join my Patreon. This helps me create more YouTube videos. See you soon. Tschüss und auf Wiedersehen.